He has been the silent figure in this drama for too long, a man of quiet presence, whose disapproval was felt more deeply than his wife's loudest screams. For years, we have watched Sadhna create the chaos, the noise, the theatrical confrontations that define this storyline. But we were always watching the wrong person. Sumit's mother was the noise, but his father, Vinod, was the power. And sources close to the family, whispers from their very own community in Delhi, say he has finally used that power. He has given Sumit a final, heartbreaking ultimatum, one that will not be televised, one that will not be negotiated, and one that is designed to end this marriage once and for all. His silence is over, and his one demand is about to bring their whole world crashing down, forcing Sumit to choose between his wife and his entire family, once and for all. Before we unpack the chilling details of this alleged family meeting and the life-altering choice laid at Sumit's feet, do me a favor. If you believe there are stories happening behind the cameras that are more real than anything we see on screen, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because you are not going to want to miss a single update as this situation unfolds. We are digging deeper than anyone else, and what we are hearing will change everything you thought you knew about Sumit and Jenny. To understand the gravity of what is happening right now, you must first understand the man at the center of it, Vinod Singh. We see him on the show as a background character, a quiet man sitting on the sofa, observing, rarely speaking. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the very source of his authority. In the complex dynamics of a traditional Indian family, the patriarch's power is not measured in decibels. It's measured in the silence that falls when he enters a room. Sadhna's screaming, her threats, her emotional collapses, that was all just weather. It was a storm that would pass. But Vinod's whisper, a single quietly spoken word, is the climate. It is the command that shifts the season. We have seen glimpses of this. Remember when the family astrologer Khalid laid out the dire warnings about the marriage? Sadhna was emotional, reactive, but the final heavy decision rested in the quiet contemplation on Vinod's face. Everyone, including Sadhna, looked at him. His nod, his slight shake of the head, that is what truly mattered. His word is law not because he is a tyrant, but because he is the custodian of the family's honor. There is that. This concept is something many in the West struggle to grasp. It's not just about personal reputation. It's the collective social standing, the legacy built over generations, the respect the family commands in their community, their business dealings, and their social circles. Every action taken by a family member either adds to or subtracts from this collective honor. And for 10 long years, Sumit's relationship with Jenny has been a catastrophic withdrawal from that account. Vinod's role is to protect that legacy. Sadhna fights with her heart, reacting to the personal shame and the perceived disrespect. Vinod fights with his head, playing a long game to protect the very foundation of their name. Sadhna was fighting a battle against Jenny. Vinod is fighting a war for the survival of the Singh family identity. And a general who has watched his forces be depleted for a decade, who has endured public humiliation and private shame, knows when the time for subtle maneuvers is over. The time has come for a final, decisive strike. This brings us to the event that has allegedly taken place just within the last few weeks. This is not something you will see on TLC. This is based on insider rumors, on the kind of information that travels through tight-knit communities when a crisis reaches its boiling point. After seeing Sumit become more and more isolated, reportedly miserable, and cut off from the family that was once his entire world, his father, Vinod, allegedly called a secret meeting, a family council. The location was their home, the one Jenny is not welcome in. The attendees, according to sources, were Vinod, Sadhna, Sumit's brother Amit, and his wife. And of course, Sumit himself, summoned without his wife. Jenny was not only uninvited, she was the very reason for the summons. The atmosphere was described not as angry or volatile, like the confrontations we've seen on TV. It was far more terrifying than that. It was solemn. It was a funeral. It was the quiet, heavy atmosphere of an intervention, where a family gathers to save a loved one from a slow-motion self-destruction. Vinod didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He did something far more powerful, far more strategic. He began by laying out the facts of the past decade, not as accusations, but as a clinical, undeniable history of their family's pain. He allegedly spoke of the initial lies, the secret first marriage Sumit was in while he was catfishing Jenny. He spoke of the money, the life savings that were spent, the debts that were incurred. He spoke of the public spectacle, the humiliation of having their family's private shame broadcast to the entire world on an American reality television show. He methodically detailed every single promise Sumit had made and broken. You will handle your mother. You will find a way. I will have both. For 10 years, he said, they have lived in a state of perpetual crisis, all because of one decision, one relationship that went against nature, against their culture, and against their family's wishes. He didn't frame it as Sumit choosing Jenny over them. He framed it as Sumit choosing chaos over peace, shame over honor, and isolation over family. He allegedly pointed to Sadhna, not in an accusatory way, but with a deep, profound sadness. He spoke of her health, the stress that has taken a visible toll on her, the sleepless nights, the public whispers she endures every time she goes to the market. This wasn't the theatrical "I'm going to be sick" performance we've seen from Sadhna. This was a husband, a patriarch, calmly stating that the stress of this situation was, in his eyes, slowly killing his wife. He was weaponizing Sumit's love for his mother, turning it from a source of conflict into the very reason he must abandon his marriage. It was a masterful, calculated move. He then turned to Amit, Sumit's brother, and his wife. He presented them as the model of duty and tradition, a son who had married correctly, who had produced a grandchild, who had added to the family's legacy, not detracted from it. He created a stark visual contrast in that room between the son who had fulfilled his dharma, his duty, and the son who had abandoned it. He made Sumit feel, in that moment, like a complete and utter failure, not just as a son, but as a man within his own cultural context. The entire narrative of this meeting was not about punishing Sumit, it was about rescuing him. It was a meticulously crafted story designed to make Sumit see his life with Jenny not as a romance, but as a prison of his own making, a prison of social isolation, of financial instability, of cultural shame. And Vinod, the patriarch, was not there to lock the door. He was there to offer Sumit the one and only key to his freedom. The culmination of this quiet, devastating meeting was the ultimatum itself, but it was not delivered with anger. According to the whispers we are hearing, it was delivered with the sorrow of a father who believes he is saving his son's soul. Vinod looked at his son, a son he allegedly described as looking lost, unhappy, and burdened, and he didn't tell him to divorce Jenny. That would be too simple, too direct. A direct command can be rebelled against. Instead, he offered him a path back. He offered him redemption. The alleged words were something to this effect. This is not working, Beta. Look at yourself, look at your mother, look at our family. This has gone on long enough. Your mother is getting older. Her health is failing because of this stress. The doctors say she must have peace, and we all know there will be no peace in her heart as long as this continues. He let those words hang in the air, the heavy weight of a mother's health placed squarely on Sumit's shoulders. He then allegedly continued, "We have been angry, but our anger is born from love and fear for you. It is time to end this. It is time to come home. And here is the core of it, the heartbreaking choice. Come home to us. We will forgive everything. The lies, the money, the shame you have brought on us by putting our family on television. All of it will be forgiven and forgotten. We will welcome you back as our son. Your place in this home, in this family, in the business, will be restored. We will heal together." It was an offer of complete and total absolution. Everything Sumit has been fighting for, a return to his family's good graces, was being handed to him on a silver platter. But it came with one non-negotiable condition. Vinod allegedly concluded with a quiet finality, his voice leaving no room for argument. "But she cannot be a part of this. Jenny cannot be a part of this family. The door to this home is open to you, and only you. The choice is yours, and it is the last one we will ask you to make. You must decide now, be a husband to her or be a son to us. You can no longer be both." Think about the psychological brilliance of that ultimatum. He didn't force Sumit to be the bad guy in a divorce court. He forced Sumit to choose his own identity. Would he continue to be Jenny's husband, an identity that, in their world, meant being an outcast, an exile, a source of shame? Or would he return to being Vinod and Sadhna's son, an identity that meant belonging, honor, inheritance, and a place in the only world he has ever truly known? He wasn't just asking Sumit to choose between two people. He was asking him to choose between two futures, two lives, two versions of himself. One life, with Jenny, is a life lived on the margins of his own culture, a constant struggle for acceptance that will never come, a life where he is defined by what he has given up. The other life, the one being offered, is a return to the center. It's a life of comfort, of familiarity, of respect. where he is defined by who he is, a Singh. For 10 years, Sumit has masterfully played a game of delay and deception. He has been a tightrope walker, balancing the impossible demands of his traditional family with the desires of his modern American wife. He has lied, he has manipulated, he has made promises to both sides that he knew he could never keep, all in a desperate attempt to have both. He wanted to be the dutiful Indian son and the loving, progressive husband. He wanted to keep both worlds, to exist in a fantasy where his parents would magically accept Jenny, and Jenny would magically accept her secondary role to his family. But that fantasy was a fragile construction, and his father, Vinod, just took a sledgehammer to it. The ultimatum closed every escape route. There is no more room to lie. There is no more time to delay. The choice is binary, it is immediate, and it is final. He has been forced to confront the one choice he has been running from his entire life. This is no longer about finding a clever compromise. It's about an amputation. He must cut one part of his life off to save the other. And for a man like Sumit, who has spent his entire existence trying to please his parents, trying to live up to their expectations, this is a moment of existential crisis. Every Indian son deep in his bones understands the weight of a father's final word. It is not just a suggestion, it is the realigning of the universe. When your father, the silent, powerful patriarch, lays down the law after a decade of patient suffering, there is often only one real answer. The path of least resistance, the path back to identity, the path back to honor is the path home. And that path, for the first time, has a sign at its entrance. Jenny not welcome. This is the end game. Vinod did not start this war, but he has decided to end it. And all signs point to the fact that Sumit is about to become a casualty of that decision, one way or another. His marriage is now on life support, and his father is the one with his hand on the plug. The decision, however, is not the most compelling part of this story. The most chilling part is what happens next. Imagine Sumit leaving that meeting. The weight of his father's final, quiet words pressing down on his shoulders, heavier than all of his mother's years of screaming combined. He gets in his car, or on his scooter, and makes the journey back to the apartment he shares with Jenny. The apartment that has become his island, but also his exile. Every meter he travels is a meter further from the life he was born into, and a meter closer to the woman who has caused him to be cast out. What does he say to her when he walks through that door? Does he confess? Does he break down and tell her, "My father has just ended us"? Of course not. That would be a direct confrontation. And Sumit has spent a decade proving he is psychologically incapable of direct confrontation. No, he does what he has always done. He says nothing. He walks in, perhaps he kisses her on the cheek, asks what's for dinner, and sits down. But Jenny, for all her perceived naivete, is not stupid. She has been living in the pressure cooker of this family drama for years. She can read the micro-expressions on his face. She can sense the shift in the atmosphere. The silence he brings into the room with him is not a peaceful silence. It is the heavy, suffocating silence of a verdict that has already been delivered. So she will ask, "What's wrong, Sumit? Did you talk to your family?" And he will lie. It will be a soft lie, a lie of omission. "No, nothing, just a long day. I'm tired." But the seed of the end has been planted. From that moment on, according to sources who have observed their dynamic, a change has begun. Sumit is no longer a man fighting for his love. He is a man waiting for an exit. His mission is no longer to convince his parents to accept Jenny. His mission is now to navigate his way back to his family, and Jenny is simply the obstacle in his path. This ultimatum has reframed his entire reality. For 10 years, Jenny was the prize to be won. Now she is the price to be paid, and his father has just convinced him the cost is far too high. We will see this play out not in dramatic fights, but in the slow erosion of their relationship. He will become more distant, more irritable. The excuses for not being intimate will become more frequent. The small joys they shared will begin to feel forced. He will start finding fault in things he once found endearing. Her lack of fluency in Hindi, her American ways, her inability to cook the food his mother makes. Every small friction will be magnified in his mind, not as a normal marital issue, but as another piece of evidence supporting his father's argument. This was never going to work. He has been given an out, a golden ticket back to his old life, and he will now subconsciously, or perhaps consciously, begin to validate the reasons for taking it. To truly comprehend the immense pressure Sumit is under, we have to look beyond the romance and examine the cold, hard mechanics of his world. The ultimatum offered by Vinod was not just about forgiveness and a welcoming hug. It was about the restoration of his place. What does that mean in practical terms? It means his inheritance. It means a position of authority in the family business. It means financial security for the rest of his life. It means access to the social and business networks his family has cultivated for generations. It means being able to provide for his own future, a future where he is a respected man in his community, not a pariah dependent on his older foreign wife's social security checks. Let's be brutally honest. What does Sumit have with Jenny, financially? A small apartment and a fixed modest income from her pension. What does he have with his family? A legacy, a future, the ability to be a provider, which is a core tenet of masculinity in his culture. Vinod didn't just present an emotional choice between a wife and a mother. He presented a business decision between a life of struggle on the fringes and a life of prosperity at the center of his world. Sumit has been living in a state of arrested development. He is a man in his 30s who, until recently, was entirely dependent on his father. His rebellion with Jenny was not just an act of love, it was an act of financial suicide. And now his father has offered to reverse that suicide. He is saying, "The mistake is forgiven, your accounts are restored, your access to the family wealth is reinstated. All you have to do is come home." For a man who has shown himself to be driven by comfort and the path of least resistance, this offer is almost impossible to refuse. The love for Jenny is real, I have no doubt. But is that love strong enough to withstand the promise of a life without constant struggle, without financial worry, and without the deep, gnawing shame of having disappointed the very people who gave him life? Vino is betting that it isn't. He is betting on culture, on finance, and on the fundamental nature of his son. And what about Jenny? She is the tragic figure in all of this, a pawn in a game she doesn't fully understand. She sees this as a love story, a battle against a stubborn mother-in-law. She does not see it for what it truly is, a war over a family's dynasty and a son's duty. She is in a foreign land, thousands of miles from her support system. Her entire world has shrunk to the four walls of that apartment and the man who shares it with her. She has no power, no leverage. She can't march over to Vinod's house and plead her case. She can't offer Sumit a better future than the one his father is promising. All she has is their shared history and the love they feel for each other. And in this battle, love is a poorly equipped soldier going up against an army. Her greatest weakness has always been her unshakable belief that Sumit will ultimately choose her. She has believed this through all the lies, the secret marriage, the years of delays. She believes love conquers all. That is the American narrative. But she is not in America. She is in a world where duty, family, and legacy are the cornerstones of existence. Love is a luxury, not a foundation. The sad reality is that Jenny's fate was likely sealed in that secret meeting, and she is the last one to know it. She is living with a man who is no longer her partner, but her warden, simply managing the situation until he can orchestrate his own release. So how will this end? Don't expect a dramatic, televised breakup. Sumit is, above all else, a coward when it comes to confrontation. He will not sit Jenny down and say, "My father gave me an ultimatum, and I'm choosing my family." That would make him the villain. He cannot bear to be the villain in his own story. Instead, we need to watch for a much more subtle, insidious strategy to unfold. He will likely begin a campaign of passive-aggressive misery. He will make their life together untenable, not through overt cruelty, but through a slow, soul-crushing withdrawal of affection and support. He will create arguments out of thin air. He will become impossible to please. He will make her feel like the burden his parents have always told him she is. The goal is to make Jenny so unhappy, so lonely, so miserable that she makes the decision to leave on her own. He wants her to be the one to say, "I can't do this anymore. I'm going back to America." If he can accomplish that, then he can return to his family not as a man who abandoned his wife, but as a tragic victim. He can say, "I tried, I fought for her for 10 years, but she couldn't adapt. She chose to leave me." He will be able to salvage his own self-image and return to his father's house as the prodigal son who was wronged, making his re-entry into the family fold even smoother. He gets everything he wants: his family, his inheritance, his honor back, and he gets to avoid the guilt of being the one who ended the marriage. It is a psychologically brilliant and morally bankrupt strategy, and it is the only move a man like Sumit has left to play. The final act of this decade-long drama is upon us. The forces have been marshaled, and the patriarch has spoken. What we are watching is not a question of if this marriage will end, but how. Vinod Singh, the silent man in the background, has checkmated his son. He presented a choice that was never really a choice at all. It was a command wrapped in the language of love. It was an execution order disguised as a rescue mission. For Sumit, every path forward leads to heartbreak. He either loses the woman he loves or he loses everything else: his family, his identity, his past, and his future. He has been running from this choice for his entire adult life. But the runway has just run out. And in the culture he comes from, when a father finally puts his foot down, the ground shakes, and the son, almost always, falls in line. The screams of Sadhna were a storm that could be weathered. The whisper of Vino is the earthquake that will bring the whole house down. It's a brutal question, but it's the one at the heart of this entire saga. If you were Sumit, what would you choose? Your wife, the love of your life, or your entire family, your entire world, and your entire future? There is no right answer, only a devastating one. Let me know what you would do in the comments below. And make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, because we will be following the whispers and the insider reports, watching for the outcome of this final silent ultimatum. You won't see the end on TV, but you will hear about it right here.